2, 1, and we're live.
All right. Welcome everybody to Aether's Workshop Starry Eyes podcast, where we review your submissions and give you tips and tricks on how to improve your animations. Wogue indeed. I am Sprite Star, creator of Olympia. You also have Wish Dream Star, creator of Astra, and Geek, creator of Malo and Makalich.
Wait, I made those?
I know, weird, right?
That's fucked up.
It's weird.
Unbelievable.
But yeah, we're gonna give you guys some input on some submissions that we were sent in, and we got an actual interesting collection.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
a weird collection.
Let us start off top of the order. Top of our order, not the top of the order in the chat.
Yep. Let's see. This one's made by the creator of Ronald. Right?
Funny Clown Man! I love him! Love seeing all the YouTube guys. I don't know where I was taking that sentence, but hey, he's making an original character now, so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome this with open arms, and he's putting his best foot forward. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
One thing about this animation, try kind of dating my advice a while ago, but I said something along the lines of the speed doesn't really matter. It can help with like telling us what's going on in the animation. Even if it's like a slow animation, it's supposed to be faster. This is the exact opposite. Not to say that it's not a good animation. Like, for the impact that it's showing, it's doing that extremely well. It's really difficult to know what's going on between the move after
they described it though. Mm-hmm.
All right, let's
They did describe it though, so I could technically imagine it. So like the flurry of punches only happens if the first move hits. So like the shoulder impact, then it goes back. They go back into the air and then like do those flurry of punches.
I do think. Go ahead, Wish.
Thanks. I just think case it's actually being telegraphed pretty properly. It's just that we don't see it normally how it would be in game.
Oh yeah, it's kind of set up the way that I've set up forward special on Olympia, where though it doesn't work the exact same way because there's a clear difference on how the move works, but it's in parts where you got like the start up and then it whiffs, but then it has like a state where if the move actually lands, it goes into the actual like flurry of punches. So it makes sense then, but what I meant by that was the actual like flurry of punches being so rapid that it's really hard for the eye to tell what's going on in between. I mean, that's probably a really great thing considering that this has 0 smear frames on it.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know what to say about this animation. This is a really stellar and really strong animation in its own right. I feel like in game it does what it needs to do, and it does it extremely well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My sentiments here. How about you, Geek?
I do think it would help with a little bit of smearing, but like that, it's not a make or break thing. This is already really fantastic.
Yeah.
Knuckles mentioned in the chat the uppercut would benefit from a smear, and I agree. Like, There is one frame where the fist on the uppercut is kind of at a diagonal, but that's really hard to spot. And when I was imagining the hitboxes, I just thought it would be like where the fist lands and not like on the entire area in front of him.
Yeah.
Other than that, damn.
Yeah, it's an extremely solid start to the podcast. Very minimal things I can point out for it. I remember seeing the jab for this character in like normal Rivals in a workshop. I mean, Rivals of Aether server, and you're doing a pretty stellar job. I was kind of worried because the art style, but you're really letting loose with your animation. Like it has its charm to it.
Oh yeah.
And the fact that it has charm, period, well, yeah, you're doing a good job.
It's very stylized. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But there's your tip. You're doing good. All right.
Pro tip: keep going.
Keep going. Yeah.
All right. We got another reoccurring rival on the podcast. This guy's name like something super like simple, but it's
Bob?
Like, Bob. I was thinking Bob, and this is like can't be Bob.
I think it's Bob. I'm pretty sure it's Bob.
Yeah, it has to be Bob. Made by Rice. Wait, am I right about that? Let me fact check myself before I start giving people credit that didn't do it. Yeah,
It's
Rice. Hell yeah.
It's weird because usually it's the other way around. Bob makes right.
Yeah. And now Rice make Bob.
The tables have turned.
Who would like their first crack at this animation?
I can go first.
Go for it.
Again, I don't have a whole lot of criticism at first glance. The arms are a little spastic.
Mm-hmm.
They do just kind of like move around everywhere with no sense of like balance or weight to it. The legs are fine. They're fantastic. Don't change anything on them.
Oh yeah, you've definitely took to heart the how do joints work comment that we brought up on a couple of your animations that you submitted, and definitely improved on it. You're starting to get a hang of anatomy of your character, which is a great thing.
Yeah. Now do the same thing for the arms, and you'll be good.
Oh yeah, it's also like really good for you to focus on those things as well, because this character is really simple.
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't really have any comments on this one though. Thank you.
Yeah.
Like, everything that we're gonna point out on this one's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
It's mainly the arm movement. It just making sure that it follows the turn and isn't jittering everywhere.
Yeah.
But other than that, very strong animation. You've improved a lot since your last few animations, and they weren't like terrible either. So this is really good showing of your improvement, Rice. Keep it up.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Pro tip: keep going.
Yeah. Pro tip: keep going.
Hell yeah.
A little bit of advice on like how to make arms and just kind of, well, mostly arms, but just limbs in general feel better. Just do like a circle brush and do that first. Just have like floating hands that are just solid circles, and go through the motions with that first.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't need to worry about the elbow and the shoulder. You'll like the elbow and the shoulder. The entire arm just supports where the hand is supposed to be. So if you get the hands down first, and if you have like those in a smooth, understandable arc, then you can get the rest of the arm done, like fine.
Yeah. Like this is like a Disney type of technique when it comes to movement.
Yeah.
So look it up.
Mhm.
If want to check it out. Like a lot of the animators do that.
Oh yeah.
Even me, especially in Astra, because like I didn't have limbs.
Yeah.
Astra has arms?
Astra has arms, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
Something to just like go by as like extra like resource to go by. Sorry. Is just looking at like keyframes of like actual like animation, like Disney keyframes, like Pixar keyframes, even like 3D stuff like Wreck-It Ralph and stuff actually had like pencil tests done so they can capture the personality and like the movement and gestures and all that good stuff of a character before they start animating it.
Yeah.
Not only is that just like a really just eye-opening thing, like those things just look beautiful when you see them, but also it just shows you how like the back end of animation really is, and it's people that are doing like Rivals mods ain't that far off from it. It's just they just know they've learned on paper and you guys learn digitally, so that's pretty much it. Just learning from just animation things in general will help you in your pixel art. But
yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and go to our next submission, which is a new submission altogether and a quite comical one, if that. So we got Cloud, not the Cloud you think it is, but Cloud.
Oh gosh, it's a cloud. It's a literal cloud.
It's such an easy joke, and yet no one's made it in Rivals yet. It's been like a few months. It's been a few months since Workshop has come out, and no one's made Cloud yet. So yeah, you're off to a great start for that. However, as all three of us could probably tell, the animation does need a good little bit of work. I'm gonna start it off with the easy thing. The rotation of the Buster Sword is just completely whack. Think of it in like a spatial sense, right? The Cloud is supposed to be like turning. It's like a double jump or like air dodge or something like that. So there's like movement that the Cloud is taking, which is like a counterclock, more so of a clockwise rotation. The Buster Sword is not showing that rotation because it's still on the same side as it is on the front, which the only way that could happen is if the sword rapidly turns before the Cloud can turn to be on the backside and then turn again before it gets to the front, or, which makes more sense because if it's a Cloud, it just goes through the middle of the Cloud and come out the other way, and then the exact opposite. The sword should turn the same way that the Cloud is turning, and it's not doing that at all. You could really like fix that by doing the one thing that you didn't do in the animation, is just flip the Buster Sword. Because that's how that would move. Like the point would be facing the different direction if it's being rotated around for you to see the other side of it. So yeah, that's pretty much it for just the Buster Sword thing. You just need to keep the rotation like visual here. Anybody else?
Yeah. It's just me. It's just striking that the blade isn't straight. This very start.
Yeah.
Anyway, so in my case, no clipping Buster Sword through the Cloud aside. It's the same thing with the eyes, right?
Mm-hmm.
The eyes just like suddenly just disappears.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So like. In this case, a very fast mirror to the eyes would work when you're spinning. Right. This is one of those cases where an unusual part that doesn't need a smear needs a smear.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you make a smear that goes from like the left, from the eyes start to the left, and then from the right. So make it look like it's like following a trail.
Yeah.
In this one, because it's a relatively fast movement, a smear would work as well here. And it needs to follow the direction of where you're rotating too, just like the bus's sword.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just like the eye is suddenly also no clipping through its own body.
Yeah. You should
that's-
be able to like follow that arc that the body is like still rotating on, even though it's a very like linear spin. Like it's only on one plane, but it still follows an arc of some sort. It's a very slight one. So just following that would help you find where the smear needs to be.
Mm-hmm. All right.
How about you, Geek?
Pillow shading! Yay!
I mean,
It's a cloud.
on one hand, yeah, it's pillow shading, and you could just like get rid of the shading on the top and it would have been fine. But on the other hand, it's a cloud.
Yeah, it is pretty close to like a literal pillow.
Yeah.
But like using Absa's clouds for reference, they aren't that strongly front lit. Like the lighting's usually from the top, and it's not. It just kind of uses one shade. While this one just kind of like shaded the edges of the sprite itself.
Let me pull up. Well,
Also, I noticed that there's more than 3 colors in the shading.
Oh yeah, this is very weird. Okay, I have. You guys keep talking. Buy me some time a little bit. I'm gonna do a thing.
Okay.
I don't know what to say. Help! How do I stop?
Talk about the cloud or something.
I've never played Final Fantasy.
Well, the you know that thing on the top that looks like a little piece of hair.
Yeah.
It looks like it should also follow a motion that
Oh yeah. Everything just kind of disappears when they turn around. There's no real consistency to it besides the fact that it's there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you could see it rotating in one way. It's just that so sudden.
Yeah.
I mean,
Also, there's little like dots on the side that just kind of appear for one frame, and I don't know where they're coming.
It's supposed to be like the trail of the cloud because it's dissipating, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's not following an arc either, rather, it is following an arc, but it's not illustrating it.
Yeah, I can kind of extrapolate that there's supposed to be like a little cloud trail thingy when they're spinning, but it's like there's nothing that actually implies that.
Yeah.
They just kind of show up on the side.
But
mm-hmm.
I have found mind you, a very poor screen cap of Rivals. But it's one that will help with the whole example. If you could probably tell from the example that I have here now, the cloud is very different than what you have here.
Yeah.
Even though that is a very soft surface, you can still see where it's bellowing out in sorts. Like it shows that it has like a 3D space in it. The problem with pillow shading specifically, and why a lot of people don't like it, is because it doesn't show mass. Period. It's just flat. It's extremely flat. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And things like Absa's Cloud has that kind of like mass to it by using the shading. I guess the only way for you to really do something about that, that's a better screen cap. Let me use that instead. A better way of just like treating it would be just to, I hate to say it, but start from scratch. And just try to get like an idea. Like the outline is fine. Like the outline can be improved, but it's also like a constantly growing in morphing figure like clouds are. Clouds never stay the same mass for long. So they're going to like transform a lot, but it's the not having shading to show said like detailing in it is the issue. And like if you need any help with like finding out how to like emulate something like Apsa's cloud in your own like cloud like illustration sprite work, like go into modding critique, show us what you got after you worked on it a little bit. If you want some input from me, Wish, or Geek, just ping us and we will give you the help for that, like on the spot. Because getting the first, from my personal experience, getting the first sprite down, like that's your reference for the rest of the sprites. So getting it where you want it, and finding like a very good illustration on what your character in Rivals would look like will help you set like a guideline on what the rest of the sprites should emulate.
Yeah.
But
also I posted a screenshot in the Discord, but if Absa's clouds are a little too detailed for you, and like it's pretty detailed, especially when like your cloud is gonna have like eyes and like limbs and all that. Probably don't want to do all the whole shading and all that stuff. Eliana's steam clouds are a lot simpler, and they still look fine.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, they still look like a cloud.
They're a lot more like procedurally drawn. Like I could probably deconstruct how they work if I given the time, but I don't want to get into that right now.
Oh yeah, this Eliana's cloud has a lot of like coding backlog on it. Like it's so, for someone that doesn't dwell in the coding side of modding, only the art side of it and the animation side of it, Eliana's cloud is a freaking enigma. Like that blows my mind how it's so like transformative and how it works. But
it's very impressive.
Yes. But even then, you can see where the shading is on the Steam that shows that it is taking some form of 3D space.
Yeah.
It may not be a lot, but it's enough. And you can like notice that by like how the shadow is curving with the actual like line and the general shape of the cloud in the Steam. And also on the top, it's not like shaded at all. It's still like that primary color. It's only the bottom that has the shadow, because that's where the shadow is going to be. So even then, you could take the outline of this sprite and like just have it like white, do it like Eliana's cloud, like Steam effect.
Yeah.
And just look so much better by just simplifying it to like two colors. Like just like light color, dark color. That's all you need.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anyway.
Kind of.
And that's how pillow shading still applies to this.
Yep.
Okay. Alright, so a little bit before we proceed to the next one, like I could see that you're trying to save as much as possible with like, you know, the small amount of frames you have. Works perfectly fine. But yeah, there's so many essential errors in this one. I'm sorry if you have to remake the entire thing. You did submit it to Animation Experts feedback, and yeah.
Yeah.
It'll require a lot of work.
And even then, like, it's better for us to tell you this stuff because I'm gonna tell you this from experience. We're a lot nicer about this than most people I've talked to when I got into spriting.
Yeah.
So humble of you.
I recommend really. Just going through modding critique and like just throwing the sprite out there and get the opinions of other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Just to get it, and then you could come back later and get it like checked on the podcast again. But
oh yeah, definitely.
there's a lot of work that requires on this one. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
don't
And
be afraid to get some feedback on modding critique.
yeah. We're not as that tab is not as scary as people make it out to be. It really isn't. Like the ones that are actually giving out the really good information, other than the nice comments that even I sometimes do, it's not like a really threatening area, like no one's trying to like flame anybody for posting their like work in progress or something like that. Like it's a chill group, well, just chill server. Like,
Yeah.
Rivals is pretty chill for the most part, so like yeah, do not be afraid to use your resources. One more thing before we like move on to the next animation. Wish pointed out that you're like being very conservative on your frames, and it shows here. I think that's why it looks very snappy and like awkward to look at, because of its limited frames, you could literally fix this by like taking the frame before the end frame where it is about to turn around, add an extra frame where it's kind of just like a visual exaggeration, or a visual emphasis rather, that's a better word for it, of the cloud going to turn, and then another frame at the near the end or at the very end where it's showing a visual emphasis that it's going to a stop.
Oh yeah.
Technically this is called easing in and easing out, and that really helps with like smoothing things out without needing to like make some dramatic frame or needing to do like 7 flips or something to make it look really good. Like the subtle motion of like slowly going into the turn and then spinning as fast as you can only to like slow down towards the end is a very visually appealing transition. It just looks nicer. You can just like look at like easing charts on Google and they'll show you like a visual on how easing works, with like a ball moving from one point to the other, and depending on how you use the easing, the ball could like either start later but get to the point faster. It could like start earlier but then slow down as it gets to the end, or it could be like a combination of the two where it like slowly starts up, speeds up, and slowly goes down.
Mm-hmm.
And there's other like advanced ways of doing it where like it's just like arcs and whatnot in the chart and whatever. You don't need to worry about that. Like that's really advanced stuff, and it's clear that you're trying to get your feet wet in pixel art animation, so you only need to worry about easy in, easing out. That's pretty much it, and that's literally like one frame, like one extra frame.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Pro tip, just copy and paste the frame that you have already and just kind of move some. Nobody will notice.
Yeah, no, like even pros do it. We've all done it.
Guilty as charged.
Yeah. Like even if you guys would like want to give out which frame, like which like animation did it the most, I'll tell you right now, Forward Strong on Olympia. Don't think I redrew that frame 20 times to get the ending of that frame. No, I just like copied paste, moved the tail a little bit. That's it.
Yeah, very much.
But yeah, you got a little bit of work cut out for you, but from experience, it's worth it. So do not be afraid of it.
Yeah.
All right.
All right,
Let's
go to the next one.
go to our next animation.
Yeah.
A little bit of an intermission before we go to this one. There was a submission that was sent in by, let me get the name of this person, because I've seen this person's work before. Rango, for Ryan's auto animation. In order for us to comfortably get these like animations on the podcast, using links like a GIF cat or a Jiffy cat or whatever, they don't actually post as a GIF. They post as like this browser only image that I can't really like grab, or in this case it's a video. Like it's literally a video when I go to the link.
It converts it to a video, so
for ease of us like being able to review it on the podcast and giving everyone else what we see, when you're submitting these things, we have to get like the GIF of it. Like it just helps everything out instead of needing to like take a day and like convert this video that I can't even save to a GIF. Like it's a lot of work. But you are free to resubmit this animation as a GIF for the next podcast, and we will review it then. So just letting you know, Ringo, that's why yours is not featured today. But on to the next. We have a recurring.
Before we start, what do you call this, Ringo? Make sure that what you're ever submitting, we could download it as a image or a GIF.
Yeah.
Alright? Like, sure, links are fine. Just make sure that you're linking from somewhere where you could save it as a GIF.
Yeah.
Or as an image, so we could show it on screen.
Yeah, we can't.
All right.
We can't really save it as videos, otherwise we'll just like override this whole system that we got going on. Yeah, I have to be able to save it as a GIF. That's pretty much it. But yeah,
all right, let's go with Pico Nico.
All right, we got another Pico Nico. God, it's so big. Why? It's so large. 300
This happens every time.
300%, man. Just
300.
take the native
300%.
size. 300%. You don't need to upscale it any more than that. We can see it just fine on Discord and on this. All right. So we got a forward tilt in the vein of Kirby's forward tilt in Smash Brothers. I was actually around when this was actually like posted in Modern Critique, and this actually had like a couple of iterations in it. So not to be like, oh, I've seen this before, but like just to clarify to people watching and people here that like this has gone through some kind of iterations. That being said, who would like to go first on this?
How about Geek?
Oh.
I'm trying to rack my brain how to describe it.
You put me on the spot here. It's smooth, it's good, it's got weight to it, but something's kind of missing. It feels like it's so smooth that it lacks impact. And I know it's just a tilt. Like, those aren't supposed to be super strong. Like, those will pass by like that. But I can't really tell when the hitbox is supposed to happen. And it feels really gentle. It feels way too gentle. Yeah. I know it's going to be faster in game, but still, it feels like nothing's actually happening here. Like if he actually hit somebody with it, then his leg would just kind of like stop there, and he'd just kind of trip over and fall.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it would just smoothly, like, what do you call this? Smoothly touch your face, kind of thing.
Just pap. Just kind of like.
It feels more like a dance than an attack, is what we're trying to say. It's not to say it's a bad animation. It's a great animation.
Yeah.
But in the terms of a fighting game, it's very weak looking in the vein of it doesn't look like it's gonna do much. And I've seen what your reference was to this, in even with like Kirby's hitboxes and all that stuff being shown slowly for the sake of seeing the hitboxes, it still looks like the move is going to like hit. And I can tell you why. Because the animation when the frame is going to come out, there's what we call hold frames. Hold frames, they're used in a lot of different forms in media and animation. But in fighting games, it's mainly there to show that, hey, once this move is out, that's where the hitbox is. You got a split second, that's where it's at. And that hold helps both visually show where the hitbox is going to be without like ruining the animation and making it seem like a pillar just stopped you right there. It only happens for like half of a frame in game, but it's just enough. And in this case, that's what it's lacking, in my opinion. And it's you're really loving the hell out of smears, man. I've also seen the talk about the smear stuff in Mod and Critique as well. This has gotten a good bit of like feedback on it. But like using smears is fine, but like there has to be a point where the smear stops to show that the hit is landing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, this is like a bit too smooth again for a smear. Like too smooth for smears.
Yeah.
And you know, smears are usually used for very, very fast motion.
Yeah.
So
again, the smear is supposed to show the start and end point, well, like the in-between traveling point of whatever is being like moved through that space in such of a fast motion that the normal eye can't keep up with it, so you just see the blur of it instead. That's why in like things in like cartoons like Johnny Bravo, like the example that I believe Geeks sent in a modding critique, where you can use it from going in and going out. But there's a reason for that. It's because when you're starting there and you're going to the end point, the next frame that you see is so fast that all you see is the blur. And that's what the smear is. Like it's something moving so fast that your eye can't comprehend what's going on. So your eye is visually making up what it's seeing by just pinpointing the just motion itself instead of seeing the actual part move in like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 like intervals. It's just 1, 2, 3. That's what a smear is. It's a blur.
Yeah, it's used to like he explained it pretty well, but it's used to like it's best used if you can't tell what's going on between two frames.
Yeah.
Like if a sword is held up and then the sword is down, like what happened? Where how did it get there?
Yeah. And of course there's like different ways of showing it. Like you got the good old blur, right? Which is what this shows. Then you got like the multiples where it's just like and almost like an after image of what's in between with like multiples of what's happening, like the multiples of the blade going through the space between the start and the end, and then it just like dissipates between there. Things like Captain America's like that crouching heavy punch in the Marvel vs. games and X-Men vs. Street Fighter and things like that. Marvel superheroes rather. Some Guilty Gear moves does this as well. There's a ton of animations of ton of examples of multiples, but that's just like a category of it. And then there's like the strange in between where you just get really experimental. But again, I would stress this enough that you shouldn't be experimenting with. Let me rephrase this. Rules are meant to be broken, but you need to know what the rules are first before you start breaking shit. Like that's kind of the gist of why people do like experimental stuff, because they know what the standard is. And the standard is boring, but they know what the standard is. So it's like, okay, let's push the envelope. And that's where you get that from. Yeah. Before I
also,
I was gonna pass it over to the Wish, because I'm gonna keep rambling about smears and shit.
Yeah, go Wish.
Okay, so this is another perfect example of you need to know timing.
Mm-hmm.
Timing. Because like like before you draw all the frames, timing is a very important thing. It's like otherwise you just wasted time. Right? And in this case, like if you're noting this, like follow my voice kind of thing, right? This is how I usually do like my animations and like getting the timing right. It's like if I do a voice like this, like for like this current movement, it goes like what, right? But we want a hit to sound like bang, 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 wah.
Yeah.
Like very, 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 very fast, or even if it's slow, it's like wah, bang, right?
Yeah.
So there's like timing to that. It's really just like and for this one, it's just like what, and that sounds weak, right? That's why it's like it feels floaty, it feels too smooth, it feels too really look at how like timing on fighting games work. In fact, since we're in like a rival style game here, or a rival style, a Smash style game here, there is plenty of resources of slowed down animations of attacks from Super Smash Brothers out there.
Oh yeah.
Like hitboxes, like Super Smash Brothers Ultimate hitboxes. Look for that. You will see how people, how they did the timing there. You could see how like suddenly it's instant. Suddenly, it's like even though it's slowed down, you could definitely feel the force and when it was supposed to be fast or slow.
Yeah.
And that could be a very good reference on getting the timing right.
And
even with your voice, let's see if it's like does it feel strong?
Yeah, what you're looking for in a singular word to describe how an animation is supposed to look for a fighting game is punchy. It has to have a very distinct impact on when it lands or when it misses, because it just needs to look like it's going to hurt. There's so many analogies that I can look up for, but I wanted to cover this point because I know what you're gonna be like. But Wish, I looked at the things and I drew it exactly how I saw it. It was like, yeah, you did, but you're missing like the key point of it, and that's like the pause of the hit itself. That's what makes it punchy, because the games are moving like Smash Ultimate runs at a smooth 60 frames per second, unless you're doing like some extraneous like Isabelle cloning item shit. Like it still moves like a buttery smooth 60 frames per second, and in order to fit the Kirby tilt that's like I could probably guess to be like 23 frames, 25 frames, that's still like half of a second in game. So like this, what I would like to call is a misconception about animation where smoother is better. It ain't. In the context of in the context of a fighting game where you're throwing out an attack, less frames is actually better. You need to get to that nice middle ground where you can show that punchiness without needing a 50 frame forward tilt. And I know this is gonna bite me in the ass when I make Anubis Commander, so don't hold this over my head, but still, like, you gotta find the context of what the move is supposed to illustrate, which is a kick that's supposed to hurt, and you're supposed to add that context to the kick, instead of I see these many frames, therefore I draw this many frames, but like you're not really paying attention to how those frames are being used, and that's the context of the frames. You just need to be a lot more aware of that stuff. That being said, this animation isn't like an instant throwaway. It's just like holding the frames on like the point where the kick actually lands.
And removing the frames that aren't unnecessary too.
Yeah, like for example, the smear frames, like out of the spin, like you can like cheat your way by just like making the twirl like faster looking by adding the smear, but it shouldn't be like an 8-frame smear either. It should be like 1, maybe 2. And you can also do that at the beginning of it, but you need to like stop the smear where the hit, like the apex of the hit is supposed to show, and then 2, maybe 3 frames of the foot being out and starting that slow turn to go back into the spin back into idle. Like that's how you make it punchy. But yeah, context of what this is. I know people will like use reference, but you need to look for the context of the reference itself. Like what is it strong for? You know, you gotta ask these questions. That's the hard part about animation. You think it's just like a bunch of drawing. No, you gotta think every moment of it. And for someone who hates thinking, I gotta remind myself when I do it. And that's why Olympia's animation is so impact looking. That's why like Geek, when he throw like Malo when chucks a bomb, it looks like he's really like chucking it at you. That's why like when Astra is like even doing like these really like intense like visual effects with like forward strong and up strong, it still looks like it hurts because it just has an impact to it. And you gotta find the context of that impact instead of I see frame, I draw frame, you know. But yeah, that's a lot more information that I thought I would get out for this animation that I've already seen and given context for. But
it's a good learning curve.
Yeah.
Learning point. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Let's proceed before we ramble on more.
Actually, one more thing. I'll be quick about this, but hot take. I've seen a lot of people in the server latch on to like, oh, smears are where the hitboxes are, and I think people are taking that a little too much to heart. Where like hitboxes are or smears are where the hitboxes should be and nowhere else, and also don't use smears anywhere else. Like that's not how it works. Like yeah, smears and hitboxes are kind of closely related like that, but that's just to cover gaps. Yeah. Like you don't need a smear every time a hitbox comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like even a punch, like a straight haymaker punch. No, you don't need a smear for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Aether a while ago. There's no smears in that, but you could definitely feel the punch.
Yeah, exactly. Hold on, let's pull this up side by side, because that's an actual like very good example, without needing to like find another thing. Like on one hand, you have an animation that's twirly, right? Like it's good animation in its own right. It's not a bad animation, but it doesn't have any impact because of it. And then you have this, where it's 0 smears, but you can see that it hurts. You know, like that move will destroy somebody if it lands, and it looks like it. Now, granted, balance-wise, it might do only like 4%, but still, it looks hard. Like, and that's what you're trying to visualize. That kind of visual impact on when the move starts, the move land, and when the move ends. And that's the context that you need to be looking at. And this is an example where it's 0 smears, and it does it better than an animation that has like 7 smears in it. You know, like it's context.
Context.
That's all I can sum it up to. Context.
Yeah, with Aether's animation, I can like actually hear the sound effects it would make when it hits.
Yeah.
That's a good mark.
The sounds of my mouth. Yeah.
Okay, next.
All right. So, something that's a little less impact heavy, I will admit.
Thank God.
But Architas has gifted us with another character idea that he's currently working on. This is the first time that it showed up on Starry Eyes, and definitely the first time I've seen it. And yeah, it's just a simple walking forward animation. I'm gonna let you know right now, I don't know what to say to it. I love the animation. So
It's good.
if you guys have anything else, go for it. The floor is yours.
Well, other than the waist shape, right?
Mm-hmm.
The very first thing I would criticize the waist shape. Everything else is done masterfully.
Yeah.
Although except the inconsistent shading on the arms.
It's inconsistent.
Yeah, like look at the left arm compared to the right arm.
Oh yeah, yeah, I see that. Like the shading goes a lot further up on the right, on the one of the arms.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, it's good.
It's very strong. Also, like, yeah, this is just me probably picking out the minor details. It looks like the shadow on the legs start like on the knees, even though it should have started below the knees, right?
Oh yeah,
Not exactly the knees.
it's
That's why it's like, why does it feel like it cuts off so sharply? It's like, oh, so yeah, the shading needs to be below the knees.
yeah, it's the same thing that like what Olympia's shading on her pants are. But even it's like a pixel higher on like the edges of it. Like it's more so of a point than it is in like a smooth curve, with how like I would assume that these pants are kind of flowy, not like baggy like Olympia's, but there's a little bit of air in there, you know. They're comfy pants.
Yeah, yoga pants.
Yeah, but the shading is a little sharp on the knee. I will say that. And even then,
so
that's
it's
just like
literally the shading for here.
yeah, and even then, it's just
perfect.
like 1 or 2 pixels.
Oh, and it's just another small criticism. The left arm kind of looks like it's overextended. I don't know why, but it looks like the position of the shoulder doesn't look right.
Oh yeah, it's a little forward, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a little forward. That's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
And if you're gonna move the shading downwards, you could add shading underneath the belt. But yeah, that's pretty much it. This is like the minor nitpicks for me.
Yeah, this is really good.
But yeah, it's really good. But I can see like the minor details that that could still use some work.
you want to know a term that we haven't used a lot in this podcast that this animation does beautifully? Secondary motion. That tail looks amazing, man. That's a
Look at
really
the little ear bobs.
Tail, the hair, the horns, ears,
Whatever they are, head things.
yeah.
and also like the jiggle on the very loose clothing.
Yeah, it's so good.
For context of anybody that doesn't really know a lot about like animation terminology and things like that, you have 2 types of motion that's going on. You got the primary motion, which is just like, in this case, it's just the body moving, right? It's just like 1 foot in front of the other. It's walking animation. Then you have your secondary motion, which is those things that are slightly off time to what's going on. Like it's moving at a different rhythm, but still on time with what's going on around you. It has like the tail and the hair, like the horn things. It has like a nice bob to it that shows the kind of like speed it's supposed to be going without having to match each foot's motion, right?
Yeah.
And this kind of secondary motion works beautifully for things that have like a bit more mass than the things near it, like the yoga pants, right? Like the tail looks like it has some mass to it, like it's heavier than the clothing, which is why it moves at such of a different interval. And that's why I'm like so fixated on the tail for this, because it just looks so good. It's a very like subtle movement. Like it's just like one bob, and then it like settles back to its resting position for like 2 to 3 frames before it loops. But just that subtle movement between like the step, especially like the right foot, because it's only doing it on the right foot. It's not doing it for the left foot either, which is why it's so offset. Like the timing is off, but that's the point. Mm-hmm. That's what secondary motion is. And
yeah, it's something moving because something else is also moving.
Yeah, it's a call and response. If any music terminology anybody that makes music out there knows what that is. But like, essentially, thing happens. All right. What does this other thing do? Oh, it does it, but later. Like that's what secondary motion is.
Yeah. And like,
oh
yeah. All his wings and his antennae.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
There's the picking up on secondary motion is just so much. It especially when you have a character that has like armor or a heavy set of like whatever, like it just something that has a little more mass than anything else, or even on the other side of the spectrum where it's something so loose that it's just like flowing on its own, like a scarf or something like that. That can also be secondary motion because it moves at its own tempo, but it's to response of what's going on before it moved.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And kind of as a counterpoint, you don't need to make everything have a secondary motion like everything on this guy has. Like, it's fine on this guy, don't change it. But, like, for other characters, you don't need to make everything bounce like he's bouncing.
Oh, yes, bring that up. Because going back to Olympia, because that's the character I've made, like, animation on Olympia would have been a bitch if I had to, like, do all types of secondary motion on just the pants alone. Like, they're baggy pants and they're supposed to move at a different interval, but if I, like, did that for every animation, it would be like 80 frames long for an idol. Like, it's just too much. You don't need all of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, it's something that you need to keep in. It's really great polish, don't get me wrong. Doing it strengthens your animation. But again, with like the last example, context. You need to know what you're animating for before you start doing this, like, Disney levels of theatrical movement and stuff. Like, you guys are doing this for free. Chill out, all right? Don't be aiming for that kind of stuff. And you don't really need to aim for that kind of stuff. It's just for this animation. Architas has a good little bit of experience behind his belt with, like, working on Gustav and Rue and now this character, that he has the chops to do it. And you guys can do this shit. You guys can totally do this shit, but you gotta take it slow. You gotta know what you're doing, and you gotta do it through trial and error, because animation college is expensive. Anyway,
just learn it yourself. It'll be fine.
Oh yeah.
Small joke. What if Olympia's pants was like Kim Cup ones?
Oh god.
You know, the god tier pants animation from King of Fighters.
I remember somebody bringing that up to me one day when I was like talking about it. It's like, yeah, the animation on the pants is a little not to SNK level. I'm gonna defend myself on this. They paid the mans to do that. I'm doing this for free. Back off. I would love to get to that level. All right, don't get me wrong.
I was paid for this.
Yeah, wish we all were paid for this. But like, that's just how it is. Like, I would love to animate at that level. I would.
Yeah.
That would be great. But also, that's an 80 frame animation on a freaking idol. Y'all ever seen Kingdom Fighters 13?
Yeah.
There's a reason why that game runs at 120 frames per second. Like, that game is intense, and they got
Workshop
paid.
Union.
They've got paid for that. I'm doing this for free. Back off.
Workshop Union.
All right.
Anyway, before I go into another tangent, let's go on to our last submission, which is quite honestly the most bizarre one that we've gotten on Starry Eyes, actually. This is a forward strong of all things. Yeah, who'd have thunk, right?
Yeah. Also, this feels like it's right out of another game entirely.
Oh yeah, no, like I'm quite sure this is like a reference character to some sort of other game, because it just, I don't know, it just feels like this is from something, you know? I can't tell you what it's from. It's probably OC. It just has that feeling to it, you know?
I would critique it. I would critique this, but I've been hit by a disintegration beam and I'm now dead. Sorry.
I'm not gonna lie, I can't point out anything on this one just because it's so good.
Yeah, like the idle animation is fucking beautiful. Like the cape, the cloak,
Floopy.
it's
Floopy.
It's really good. And then like the transition into it, it's not anything like super spectacular. It's not like whatever, but it gets the job done and it does it well. And then like the rest of it, there's like hold frames that shows you, okay, something's gonna go down, and then you get blasted, and then it goes back to idle, and that's all you need. Like, that's much like our very first submission that we used. This is also another good example of like anticipation, because you see what's gonna happen, and then you're given the information of something's gonna happen, and you're like, oh shit, what's gonna happen? And you see it happen. It's like, oh shit. Like, that's
Oh, that happened.
yeah. And then it just like goes back to idle because it's a forward strong. But like, how is this a forward strong?
What happens if you use it out a ledge?
Oh god.
It just goes.
Imagine the 20-something hitboxes to make sure that works. Holy fuck. Oh jeez.
Yeah.
Good animation.
Extremely large, you know, sprite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still hurts though.
Yeah.
Hey, I can't really find anything on this one.
Oh yeah, no, like
Seriously,
this is like
looks like something I would hire someone to make something for my own game.
yeah, like this.
Yeah.
This is very professional levels of like polish, you know, and it's efficient, you know. It's not like
Professional levels of college.
the polish. I mean, probably at college, depending on where you're making it.
I heard it is college.
but yeah, no, this is just a stellar animation, just period. Like, I looked at it before and it was like, okay, there has to be something. Dude, there's gotta be something. This animation is a little too crazy just to be like, yeah, let's like gloss over this real fast. Which is why we like added it to the podcast. And then like watching it over and over and over again, I'm like, there's not much I can say to it. It just like, it's a really strong animation.
Strong.
Yeah. Ah.
Strong. Yeah.
Yeah. This is like what, the third, maybe fourth character that was been on the podcast that we've just said nothing about other than, damn, that's a good animation.
Yeah.
Like,
What do you call this? Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. There's a lot of praise on this one. It kind of looks like it's been animated with Dane or something.
oh yeah, this is a very.
Yeah.
It's also
I'm
another.
not used to high frame rates with this.
Oh yeah, no, it's another thing that I've seen, but I didn't really like point out just yet. When the laser actually like comes out, there's recoil to it,
Yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
it's super. It's not even like, okay, I'm gonna make a new animation, like a new frame for this, where I gotta like turn the head back It's like, no, move it diagonally up, and that's all it. That's recoil. That's how recoil works. Like,
Yeah, just push.
yeah.
Yeah, like imagine like shooting a gun and then like suddenly your arm just yanks back after the shot.
Yeah. And
Or
your arm will just like go back to that state where you had the gun before, because that's what you're using it for. And that's what recoil is. And that's another level of polish on this animation that makes it pop out even more, because it's taking into account physics. Like, it has its own weight to it that is impacted by its own weight.
Yeah.
is it bad I could hear like the Sans Gaster Blaster sound effect?
Not at all. That means it's doing its job as far as how deadly this move is supposed to look.
Da-da-da-da.
But
Yeah.
AIDS.
Pro
Pro tip: keep going.
tip, keep going.
Pro tip, keep going. And also, I like how like this is where motion helps, even though you have a single frame of animation.
Oh
Yeah.
Like, there's only two different two different poses. There's the idle, and then there's where the monster shows up for the actual like forward strong.
There's three. It's like the charging, then the blast.
Yeah, but it's still like moving the mouth and just like subpixelation and things like that. It's just like outline and stuff.
Wow.
Like, you got three, which I would say like the idol, the morphing into the monster, and the monster itself, and that's like three different forms. None of it's like doing some like strange like over ambitious turn. Nothing's like super effect heavy. It's simple and it's really effective because it's not trying to be extra with its animation. It's trying to be effective, and it's doing that extremely well. But yeah, that's before we gush about this for another hour and a half. That's all the submissions that we got.
Yeah. Hey, Spar, can you real quick? Can you move the sprite so the laser shoots my head?
Yeah, hold on. There we go.
Oh my god.
Geek us no more. And with that, now we'll conclude Aether's Workshop Starry Eyes. Thank you everybody for joining in. Thank you everybody that submitted your submissions for review. Be sure to submit any new ones that you got for next week's podcast. And if you need any spontaneous kinds of information and tips and tricks and whatnot, be sure to use Mod and Critique. You are more than free to ping either Wish, Geek, or I, and we will help you when you post those things. But yeah.
Anyway, remember to shine your way and reach your dreams. Keep it simple, guys. Keep it simple.
Peace out, everybody.